This untalked about dark truth can make or break your carnivore diet experience. It can be quite detrimental and is not talked about whatsoever, and this is for a specific reason. This thing could make you quit the carnivore diet early, and you need to know what to do. In the carnivore space, no one really talks about this too much because it can be quite awkward. While I do love the carnivore diet and there are so many life-changing benefits, this one thing can really change your journey. Before I get into this video, please consider liking and subscribing because it really helps the algorithm and gets our message out there. For most people, making their transition from a standard American diet to a carnivore diet is a massive metabolic shift. It is quite common to leave people with poor bowel movements or even experience symptoms of diarrhea and constipation. I had to make this video because no one really talks about it, and it can leave a lot of beginners feeling lonely or even sad, or that they're doing the carnivore diet wrong. Now, if I'm going to be completely honest, I did experience a bit of diarrhea for the first 2 to 3 weeks. However, I don't talk about it much, but for the sake of this video, I will open up and tell you about my tips and tricks to get through this and to minimize the effects. Well, why does this happen in the first place? Well, your gut is changing a lot. This is because on the carnivore diet, you have zero fiber. Now, a lot of people actually think we need fiber and it's good for your gut. However, this is completely false and is a myth. Fiber is terrible for your gut health. We can't even digest fiber. It blocks the absorption of nutrients and it damages your digestive tract. People really think it's healthy to be going to the toilet 3 to 4 times a day. This is not healthy. When you remove this fiber from your diet, in the short term, you may experience bowel problems such as constipation and diarrhea. Now, why is this the case? Your gut has been damaged for 10, 20, 30, 40, even 60 or more years, so it's going to take some time for your body to heal and be able to digest food properly. In most cases, it takes around 1 to 3 weeks for symptoms of constipation and diarrhea to start to dissipate a bit when you remove all fiber. The next reason, your body is getting used to having extremely high fat. The diet that you did before probably was a low-fat diet, which has been heavily pushed by our society. When you have a low-fat intake, it can actually increase your constipation, and people use fiber to treat this. However, that is not the right way to treat it. The right way to treat it is to increase your fat intake. Before we started consuming fiber in around 1980, we relied on high amounts of saturated fat to take care of our bowel movements. The carnivore diet involves a very high fat intake and protein intake with zero carbohydrates. And as a result of this, your stools can become a little bit more loose. What I usually say to people is, if you're having constipation issues, you need to really up your fat intake, and if you're having diarrhea or loose stool issues, you need to lower your fat intake a little bit. You can play around with it a little bit and try get to the optimal amount of fat to protein ratio where you feel the best and your stools are the best. The next reason why you may be experiencing bowel issues is you're eating inflammatory types of meat. This meat isn't in particularly bad for you, but in the early stages of the carnivore diet, when your body is adapting, it can be a little bit more detrimental. The meat or foods you want to look out for is foods that have a higher omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, which makes them more pro-inflammatory. Foods like chicken and pork have higher omega-6 ratios. They are not ruminant animals, and they're most likely fed corn or soy, and therefore can have a bit of issues if you start to consume them in high frequencies. For the first few weeks, you may want to cut down your pork and chicken intake and really increase the quality of your meats by having grass-fed meat from ruminant animals. Another culprit for your diarrhea and constipation may be dairy. Now, you may have not thought of this, but most dairy is pasteurized and homogenized, which is not as clean to pass through and can be causing you issues. I would totally cut out dairy for the first few weeks, or if you really want to, switch to options like raw dairy or raw milk, which have better gut absorbing enzymes to help you break down it easier. Switching from your normal diet, which your fuel is probably coming from carbohydrates, to now a diet with no carbs, you enter a state of ketosis. When you are in a state of ketosis, your body uses up its glycogen stored inside its cells as its first priority. These molecules in the glycogen actually attach to a lot of water molecules and can end up being the reason that you get diarrhea. So what I did, and a little tip I give, is in this adaptation phase, when you're eating meals, you may not want to drink a lot of water 30 minutes prior or 30 minutes after your meal. Whenever I did this, I would get really bad diarrhea. However, when I cut down on this, I did not experience those symptoms as much. When you are not eating carbs, you're not getting as much electrolytes straight from the carbohydrates, so you can run into some issues. You may need to up your salt intake in this phase since your kidneys excrete excess sodium during ketosis. You can do this by eating up to 5 grams of salt a day, which can help you stay hydrated and avoid carnivore diet diarrhea and other side effects. So my final tips would be, stay hydrated, however, try not to drink just before you eat or just after you eat. Balance around and play around with your fat to protein intake. If you are a bit more on the constipated side, you'd want to increase your fat intake so you have looser stools. And if you are on the side of the more diarrhea side, you'd want to lower your fat intake so your stools would become a little bit more solid and not as frequent. At the end of the day, just know that better days are coming. You will get through this, and you will be much happier. It's been 3 months into my carnivore journey, and I do not experience any of these problems whatsoever, and my plumbing is great. I hope that these tips really help you, and if you want to check out another video of ours, watch this video on how I lost 50 pounds in 3 months on the carnivore diet. We appreciate all the support, and please don't forget to like and subscribe and turn that notification bell on.